Hello fellow nerds. Today I'm taking you along on my Wildemount campaign preparation journey. And last time we stopped with the seafarers. So let's see what happens next in the small village of Palma, Flora, on the Menagerie coast. Having escaped the destruction of Flora Isle, the characters can take stock of their situation and make some new acquaintances. After the characters depart the docks, on Wavechaser read: Flora Isle and the rest of Palma Flora grows ever smaller on the horizon as Wavechaser cuts through the choppy waters of the Lucidian Ocean. Several refugees from the village are huddled on the deck of the ship, while the crew tends to the vessel. This part of the adventure is an opportunity for the characters to catch their collective breath, interact with some of the NPCs on the vessel, and plan their next move. So I'm really looking forward to this because half of my group is really into role-playing. The other half, I'm not so sure. I think they like it, but they are not as experienced as the rest. But then the longer you play D&D, the better you get at role-playing and the basic rules of improv. For me, the basic rule of improvisation is yes and, even if it's ridiculous. So whenever an NPC, which is basically me as the DM, or another player character, says something or does something, the reaction to that should be yes, meaning I accept your premise, and then build off of that. Because if you throw something into the role-playing space and the other player goes no, then that stops the interaction. Of course, ground rules are important because there are definitely moments where a player, either in character or out of character, should absolutely say no. And that's when the ground rules are broken. Consent is very important in role-playing. But that's not something I'm too worried about with this group. We had the boundaries and limits discussion in our session 0, where I basically laid down, this is a boundary for me as a DM. We are not going to do that. This is, on the one hand, gaming wise. For example, I don't like excessive metagaming while we're in a scene. I openly admit that I forget rules, misinterpret rules, and make mistakes as a DM, and that's fine. But if I make a mistake or use a rule wrong, tell me afterwards. Don't disturb the narrative just to tell me, well, actually, if you hit the AC, that hits. That's the basic mistake I made in my very first campaign. Like, if your AC is 16 and the attack roll is a 16, I counted that as a miss. I know that's wrong, but in that moment I forgot. But rather than changing mid-session, I decided to interpret that rule consistently wrong. So this is something, don't rule lawyer with me while we're at the table. That's a boundary gaming wise. And then there are boundaries that concern topics. For example, one, I don't want excessive torture and sexualized violence at my table. My players can be murder hobos, that's totally fine, but I'm not going to roleplay a torture dungeon or something. That's a limit for me and a hard no. And all of my players agreed, but this is something that's important to talk about. It might seem obvious, but I've been at tables in an evil campaign where that's not off the table, and so I left right after session 0. And that's fine. If the group is not for you, just leave. It's not prison, it's Dungeons and Dragons. Right. So much for consent and boundaries in role-playing. Let's return to the source, character advancement. At some point during this part of the adventure, ideally at the end of your first session of play, each of the characters advances to 2nd level. Well, that's quick. Where you place the end of your first session is up to you, but 2 good points to conclude a game are when the characters first board Wavechaser and when they speak with Captain 3 Earrings and decide their next destination. And here we have the map of the Wavechaser. Honestly, I'm a bit scared of combat on water and underwater combat. Not gonna lie. This is a first for me. Okay. Wavechaser is a type of vessel known as a caravel, which is equipped for navigating coastal waters. That's correct. My military historian heart is full. This information is correct. The ship can carry 20 passengers comfortably. Though it's a sturdy vessel, it's not built for the open ocean. The revelry-controlled island of Darktown is the farthest this ship could feasibly travel. Wavechaser is outfitted with 2 ballistae on its stern for ship-to-ship combat. The ship's store of iron-tipped ballista bolts is kept in the hold to keep their wooden shafts from rotting. A ballista's game statistics are described under Siege Equipment in Chapter 8 of the Dungeons Master's Guide. Okay, let's just roll with it. Interacting with the crew. The crew members of Wavechaser are all easy to spot as they attend to their duties around the ship. A burly, hairy man is playing a card game with some of the refugees. A half-orc gazes out at the waves as she smiles at a dolphin leaping through the ship's wake. A young male elf with pale green skin and watery eyes is speaking to a female dwarf with a thick, knotted beard at the ship's helm. A handsome, muscle-bound man is flirting with one of the refugees. Hell yeah, female dwarf with beard. We love to see it. Most of the crew of Wavechaser are secretly revelry pirates, as is the captain of the ship, a female tabaxi with snow leopard-like spots named Three Earrings, on account of her 3 earrings. The captain is in her cabin, plotting the ship's next move. If you want to roleplay the interaction between the characters and the crew, you can fill these NPCs with as much personality as you want, making them fully fleshed out characters. And here's a list of NPCs. Birth, male human. This darkly handsome, chaotic neutral bandit is heavy-set and strong and has a keen mind for games of chance. He hails from Port de Marly. Birth doesn't trust anyone, especially his fellow revelry sailors. That's not very convincing. The last part of not trusting his fellow sailors. Okay, maybe he's new to the crew, then that would make sense. Dajakal, female half-orc. This lawful neutral druid is soft-spoken and likes animals more than other people. Relatable. She joined Wavechaser's crew a week ago in Nicodranas, as a mercenary spy for the Clovis Concord tasked with identifying revelry pirates. She secretly casts Animal Messenger every evening to send reports on Wavechaser's whereabouts to her superiors. Okay, now the distrust makes sense. Dilyu, male sea elf. This green-complexioned, chaotic good bandit joined the crew only a few days before. As a result, he has no idea yet that he's working on a pirate vessel. Dilyu spent most of his life in Port Zune after losing his family to a Sahuagin raid as a child, and he hates the sea devils with a passion. Heidi Xbeard, female dwarf. Excellent name. This lawful evil acolyte is the ship's pilot and first mate, and she has a knack for predicting the weather. She hails from Grimgulir in the Dwendalian Empire, but has spent decades navigating the sea. Heidi has fought Sahuagin on multiple occasions, but has never seen them wield magic like whatever caused Flora Isle to sink beneath the sea. Kijori, male human. This tan-skinned, chaotic neutral bandit is the ship's navigator. Despite his muscled physique, he isn't very strong. A philanderer who hails from Port de Marly, Kijori is a fool and isn't suspicious of anyone. 3 earrings, female tabaxi. This pale, spotted, neutral evil bandit captain is a low-ranking member of the revelry pirates. She brought her vessel to the village of Palma, Flora, because she was informed that the local Sahuagin tribe had uncovered an unusual treasure. 3 earrings rightly assumed that they were going to attack the village, and she intended to be there to plunder the ruins after the attack. She didn't anticipate Flora Isle sinking. Captain's invitation. Once the characters are done chatting with the crew, have the NPC they are currently speaking to tell them that Captain 3 Earrings would like to see the characters in her cabin. Palma Flora refugees. Isn't it weird that a pirate ship takes in refugees? Especially if they are all evil aligned. I mean, just because they're pirates doesn't mean they are evil. Maybe I'm going to change that. If the characters want to speak to any of the refugees, read or paraphrase the following. Island refugees have created makeshift shelters from the sun all across the deck of Wavechaser. Those you saved during the raid are here, as well as a handful of others who managed to reach the ship before it left the dock. The NPCs saved by the characters after the earthquake are mostly in a state of shock, though their gratitude towards the characters continues. They and the other refugees have personalities and attitudes that you can improvise based on how the characters acted towards them when Palma Flora was in crisis. If a character wears or displays the shark tooth necklace taken from the Sahwagin in Area P2, which I don't remember, one of the refugees recognizes it as theirs. If Jiwao, the shark hunter, survived the raid, the necklace is his. If the necklace is returned, its owner pledges eternal devotion to the character who found it, and that character gains inspiration. Three Earrings Plan. When the characters meet with Captain Three Earrings in her quarters, read: a tabaxi is hunched over a white table, puzzling over a map pinned to its surface by a half-dozen knives and daggers. Absolutely not. Maps are expensive as hell, and no one will put knives in them. But okay. Several golden rings glisten on her paws as she traces potential paths through the ocean. She glances up at you with her emerald eyes as you open the door, and her feline face spreads into a sharp-toothed smile that is equal parts cheerful and unsettling. "Oh, welcome," she purrs. "You are the heroes from the pretty village, yes? Welcome aboard, Wavechaser. We have much to discuss about the sinking isle, and the treasure we can find if we return." Three Earrings is a pirate. More accurately, she's a member of the Revelry, a highly organized coalition of buccaneers headquartered on the dread Isle of Darktow, many leagues west. The tabaxi is interested in the adventurers she has brought on board, wanting to appraise their skill and enrich herself in the process. Ultimately, she intends to use them as tools in a hunt for Sahwagin treasure, and invites them to join her crew. First, however, she needs a plan. The captain of Wavechaser is a cunning tabaxi bandit captain with a climbing speed of 20 feet. The feline agility trait, see below, and dark vision out to a range of 60 feet. She can read, write, and speak Common and Sahwagin. As an action, she can make a melee weapon attack with her claws, +4 to hit, dealing 1d4 slashing damage on a hit. Feline agility. When Three Earrings moves on her turn in combat, she can double her speed until the end of the turn. Once she uses this trait, she can't use it again until she moves 0 feet on one of her turns. Okay. Three Earrings has a knack for knowing exactly what a person wants and how to offer it to them. Unless a character has a passive charisma, deception, score of 15 or higher, she's able to discern the character's ideal, bond, and flaw simply by observing them for 10 minutes. To determine this passive score, add 10 to a character's bonus to charisma deception checks. Okay, that's interesting. As she talks to the characters, Three Earrings glibly answers any questions they put to her and attempts to manipulate manipulate them into suggesting that they want to save Palma Flora. She only aggressively suggests a course of action if the characters appear out of their depth. Part of her strategy is to make the adventurers feel as though they are in complete control, even as she subtly directs the conversation. A character who succeeds on a DC 16 Wisdom Insight check catches the Tabaxi captain trying to subtly goad the characters into action. If confronted, she slyly smiles and takes note of this clever adventurer. She blithely says that she appreciates initiative and she wants to know what the characters are capable of. If she thinks this character would make a successful pirate, she visits them during the night and offers them membership in the revelry, if they can convince the rest of the party to help her claim the Sahwagin treasure. Well, this is going to be easy because my party has already decided they want to be pirates. Maybe they just apply for the position right straight away. Or, considering that at least one of them tends to be a murder hobo, they just kill the captain. I better prepare for that one. What Three Earrings knows. The Tabaxi captain knows exactly what happened in Palma Flora thanks to the revelry spies that have been observing the village and the Shark Feather Abyss for the past few months. She reveals any of the following information. The earthquake dragged Flora Island to the Shark Feather Abyss, a nearby trench that is home to a clan of shark-herding humanoids known as Sahwagin. The Shark Feather Sahwagin and the people of Palma Flora have been at odds for generations, since Palma Flora hosts an annual shark hunting festival. A young female Sahwagin named Selachai, I like Selachai better. Selachai recently took charge of the Shark Feather clan and wields unusual powers. She carries a magic scepter that has been recognized as a rod of retribution, which has become a conduit for unearthly levels of magical power. No one knows exactly how this young Sahwagin managed to cause an earthquake powerful enough to drag Flora Isle under the waves, but that isn't important. What is important is finding a way to delve beneath those waves and take the scepter from Selachai. Doing so would stop her from causing any more chaos, and the relic would doubtlessly sell for a pretty penny on the black market. Three Earrings wants to sell the treasure and split it 3 ways. A third to her and the ship's upkeep, a third to the crew, and a third to the adventurers. She offers them a total of 500 gold pieces as their 1/3 share if they help her retrieve the rod. A number of nearby ports or islands are good sites for Wavechaser to dock unloaded refugees and find gear that could help a group of brave adventurers take on the Sahwagin in the underwater lair. If the characters tell Three Earrings that they want to challenge Selachai, she lays out several of the ports of call they could visit before turning about and sailing for the Shark Feather Abyss. If the adventurers would rather leave this mess behind them, she scowls and scoffs, but eventually acquiesces. The captain agrees to drop the party off in Port Damali when she hopes to find a few sellswords with real courage. For characters set on returning to Flora Isle and facing down the Sahwagin threat, 3 viable ports are close by, any of which would take in the refugees and let the characters seek supplies for their mission. Besaft Isle, This tiny isle has a small port. A shaman living in the hills beyond the port might be able to provide the characters with a charm of water breathing. The charm allows the characters to cast the water breathing spell, after which its magic fades. Brokenbank. This village is the smallest settlement recognized with Clovis Concord, but is nonetheless filled with foreign ships. An apothecary here might be able to provide potions that will grant the ability to breathe underwater. Port Damali. This city is too large for the characters to fully explore in this adventure. Three Earrings knows a smith with black market connections who can help the characters obtain a number of experimental diving helmets that would allow them to breathe beneath the waves. Next moves. As thanks for their bravery, the characters are offered the use of a cramped but comfortable spare cabin as sleeping quarters. Unless Three Earrings visits one of the characters, the night passes uneventfully. Read. Seagulls squawk and chase behind you as Wavechaser sails on to your next port of call. Night settles around you, the crew guided only by the light of the stars. A character's decision on where to travel next might be the point that marks the end of the first session of this adventure. If you ended the first session before completing this section, this is still a good place to take a short break before continuing into the next part of the adventure. Remember that the characters should now be second level. I find it super helpful that they included info on where to make a break, and this is a good place to end the first session, because I find this very difficult to find this point, and usually I go until I cannot focus anymore, and then the story is all chopped up in weird places, and the worst thing to happen is if you have to end mid-combat, which usually only happens if we are on a schedule, because someone has to leave at a specific time. Well, I'm so looking forward to starting this. Oh, this is going to be great. My players are also hyped. Yeah, this is a nice setting. I'm looking forward to this. I was a bit reluctant to start with Tides of Retribution as our first adventure, because I'm very afraid of underwater combat and the mechanics of that. But, you know, it's supposed to be fun. I'll make this work. Also, the rules are more like guidelines, you know. Anyway, thank you very much for spending your time with me as I prepare the first session of this new campaign. I hope you find this entertaining and maybe relaxing too. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next installment of Wildemount Preparation. Until then, bye bye fellow nerds.